The main areas of practice of Mahayana Buddhism are in Eastern Asia. It is a liberal and expansive interpretation that is inclusive of women laity and the school of thought in which enlightened beings desire only to awaken those sentient beings. And this enlightened being is called the Bodhisattva and is the paradigm of religiosity in Mahayana Buddhism. The term literally means an enlightened being. Bodhisattva is the primary source of the cultivation of altruism and the spirit of awakening in Tibetan Buddhism. Historically, we have known the Bodhisattva as a future Buddha or Buddha in training. An arhat is the contrasted Hinayana ideal of the Bodhisattva. Arhats have overcome the afflictive emotions and ignorance, destroyed all hatred and mental defilements, and have become detached from any desire for the phenomena of cyclic existence. They are known to enter the world into a blissful state of nirvana as a reincarnate, as they were able to transcend the mundane world in their past life. The Buddha reveals countless bodhisattvas striving in one state or another toward bodhi, or enlightenment. What is important, according to the sutra, is that not only the true way, but that the power of the bodhisattva is available for those in need. To become a bodhisattva, one must perfect the paramitas, the 6 qualities in which bodhisattvas train. They are generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, and they become the matrix of the enlightened personality of a Buddha. One can become a bodhisattva only if they are content with nothing less than all knowledge attained through the perfection of wisdom for the sake of all beings. In order to keep their promise to sentient beings, to liberate them throughout space in these 6 directions from their mental afflictions, the bodhisattva must have perfected these paramitas. The implementation of the spirit of awakening in daily life comes from the perfection of these 6 aspects and thereby addresses the perfection of ethical discipline. Mahayana texts state that mental afflictions do not exist in sense objects, nor in sense faculties, nor in the space between or anywhere else. These mental afflictions are mere illusions, thus one must liberate their fearing heart and cultivate perseverance for the sake of wisdom. This liberation comes only from seeking refuge within the bodhisattva. The power of faith of the bodhisattva increases to cultivate virtue in all sentient beings. The freedom to practice dharma, or the leisure of an enlightened one, and their endowment brings about the welfare of the world. Just as lighting illuminates the darkness of a cloudy night for an instant, in the same way, by the power of the Buddha, occasionally people's minds are momentarily inclined toward merit. The work of the bodhisattva alone is a blessing by which joy is easily increased and immeasurable multitudes of beings are rescued. There are 3 main aspects of attaining bodhi. The first, cognition, is a state of insight, wisdom, and awareness. It is insight into oneself, into universal conditionedness. It is seeing the eternal in the depths of the transitory, the real in the depths of the unreal, and seeing the two as one, absolute reality. The second aspect is volition. It is a state of untrammeled freedom, of emancipation, both subjective and objective. Subjectively, it is a state of freedom from all moral and spiritual defilements. Objectively, it consists in freedom from the consequences of defilement. The third and final aspect of the bodhi is the emotional facet. It is a state of positive and spiritual emotion. Subjectively, it consists in a state or experience of supreme joy, bliss, and ecstasy, while objectively it is a state of unbound love and compassion for all beings. The bodhisattva is inclined to escape from the states of mundane existence and to hold fast to the jewel of the spirit of awakening. The bodhisattva is honored by the world as virtuous, whose every good deed is unsolicited. He is one who forever bestows to countless sentient beings the fulfillment of all yearnings, which is inexhaustible until the end of beings is limitless space. Just as the plantain tree decays upon losing its fruit, so does every other virtue wane. But the tree of the spirit of awakening perpetually bears fruit, does not decay but only flourishes. Just so, the bodhisattva has this protection from decay, and is always readily available and interested in helping those ignorant sentient beings who seek refuge in them. The spirit of awakening is known to be of 2 kinds. The aspiring for awakening, which is the mind that has arisen due to aspiration, but does not engage in generosity, and the other paramitas, and the spirit of venturing toward awakening, which is the mind that engages in actions that result in the accumulations of merit and knowledge. Even when the spirit of awakening is devoid of good conduct, It is never despised by the Bodhisattva, for it alone brings forth happiness in the endless cycle of existence. From the time that one adopts the spirit with an irreversible attitude for the same of liberating sentient beings, an uninterrupted stream of merit, equal to the sky, constantly arises, even when the Bodhisattva is asleep or distracted. Constantly does the Bodhisattva dispel delusion, no matter their state at any moment. The career of the Bodhisattva begins with the first awakening of the mind, which is referred to as bodhicitta. The bodhicitta is the spirit of awakening that motivates the Bodhisattva way of life. It is a means of cultivating and sustaining altruistic aspiration, and the bodhicitta lays a foundation of perfect generosity in the Bodhisattva path. The bodhicitta represents a fundamental alteration in one's attitude from sentient being to the ultimate goal of the Bodhisattva. They're motivated by universal compassion, and they seek the ultimate goal of Buddhahood in order to be of service to all sentient beings. The Bodhisattva embarks on this path, led by the bodhicitta, with the generation of the mind of enlightenment. The sign of the true bodhicitta, it is said, is constant readiness to undergo any sacrifice for the happiness of all beings. There are 10 stages or directions that also must be perfected for the Bodhisattva to counteract hatred. These contemplations are designed to do so because hatred is seen in Mahayana as the most virulent of all mental afflictions and the most antithetical to the Bodhisattva way of life. There are 10 directions that represent a path that parallels the stages known as bhumis and can be translated as stages of the path of the Bodhisattva. The term bhumis implies a firm place on which to stand, and the Bodhisattva cultivates on one of the perfections or paramitas in each stage. After the completion of perfection's attainment of the bhumis, the Bodhisattva goes through transgression to the final stages. The Bodhisattva transgresses to complete pleasure and happiness and to placate all pain and unhappiness for all sentient beings. There are criterion for transgression, which consist of steady and heartfelt application of body, speech, and mind. Those who wish to protect this practice should zealously guard the mind and restrain the afflictions of the mind by a rope of mindfulness. Thus all perils will vanish and complete well-being is obtained. By subduing the mind alone, all mental afflictions and defilements will become subdued. Those who have not cultivated the mind, which is the mystery and the very essence of Dharma, uselessly wander in space in order to eliminate suffering and find happiness. Mindfulness easily arises for those of good fortune because of their association with a spiritual mentor, and for those who are reverent on account of the instruction of a preceptor and because of their fear. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have unobstructed vision in all directions of space. Everything is in their presence, and all sentient beings stand before them seeking refuge. For the sake of accomplishing the welfare of all sentient beings and helping them toward nirvana, the Bodhisattva freely gives up their body, enjoyments, and all virtues. The surrendering of everything is nirvana, which is what the mind of all sentient beings seeks to achieve. The Bodhisattva in Tibetan literature speaks, "May those who falsely accuse me, who harm me, and who ridicule me all partake of awakening. To all sentient beings may I be a wish-fulfilling gem, a vase of good fortune, an efficacious mantra, a great meditation, a wish-fulfilling tree, and a wish-granting cow." The Bodhisattva, in various ways, is a source of life for the sentient beings present throughout space until they are all liberated. Upon the adoption of the spirit of awakening, the sentient being now lives a fruitful life in which human existence is well obtained, and the elixir of life is produced by the Bodhisattva to vanquish death in the world. It is an inexhaustible treasure eliminating the poverty of the world, the supreme medicine that alleviates the illness of the world, and the tree of rest for beings exhausted from wandering on the pathways of mundane existence. Beyond this, though, the spirit of awakening is the universal bridge for all travelers on their crossing over miserable states of existence. It is the rising moon of the mind that soothes the mental afflictions of the world, and the great sun that dispels the darkness of the world's ignorance. It is a fresh butter formed from churning the milk of Dharma and the feast of happiness that satisfies all sentient beings. Enlightenment is comprised of three things: a state of pure, clear, even radiant awareness. In this state, the subject and object duality is no longer experienced, and the distinction between the two is entirely transcended. One revolving in the cycle of existence is slow in attaining